The Amityville Horror is one of the most infamous haunted house stories in American history, a tale that blends gruesome true crime with bone-chilling paranormal events. It centers on a seemingly normal house located at 112 Ocean Avenue in the small suburban town of Amityville, New York. What makes this story so terrifying is not only the alleged supernatural occurrences, but also the dark history that preceded them. The story begins on the night of November 13, 1974, when a horrific massacre took place in the very house that would later become the subject of international fascination. On that night, 23-year-old Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. took a rifle and murdered his entire family as they slept. His parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, and his 4 younger siblings, Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John. One by one, they were shot at close range while lying in their beds, all killed in their sleep. What shocked investigators the most was that no one appeared to have awakened during the shootings. All the victims were found lying face down, and there were no signs of struggle, which led some to speculate whether something even darker had influenced Ronald DeFeo's actions. When police arrived on the scene, DeFeo initially claimed the murders were the work of a hitman, but he soon confessed, claiming that voices in his head had driven him to commit the unthinkable. DeFeo was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison, leaving the house vacant, its walls still soaked with the horror of that terrible night. Just over a year later, in December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, moved into the house at 112 Ocean Avenue. Despite being aware of the home's bloody history, they were lured by the relatively low price, a result of the home's notorious past. The Lutzes believed they could put the tragedy behind them and start fresh in the beautiful Dutch colonial home, complete with a boathouse and swimming pool. But their dream quickly became a nightmare. According to the Lutz family, almost as soon as they moved in, strange and terrifying things began to happen. George Lutz, the stepfather of the 3 children, was the first to notice something was terribly wrong. He felt an overwhelming coldness throughout the house, even though the heating system was working perfectly. He also began waking up every night at exactly 3:15 a.m., the approximate time Ronald DeFeo had murdered his family. George claimed to hear strange noises in the house, including banging sounds, footsteps, and voices that seemed to whisper from the shadows. At times, he would feel an unseen presence watching him, filling him with dread. Kathy Lutz experienced her own terrifying encounters. She claimed that she felt as though she was being physically touched by unseen forces, and she began having vivid nightmares about the murders. One night, she woke up to find red welts covering her body, as if she had been burned. On another occasion, she looked into a mirror and saw her face transform into that of an old woman, wrinkled and decaying. Perhaps most disturbingly, Kathy would sometimes feel as though she was being possessed by something evil, her thoughts and emotions overtaken by anger and despair. The children too began to suffer. They complained of strange odors in their rooms, sickly sweet smells that would appear and vanish inexplicably. Their personalities began to change, and they became withdrawn and fearful. The family's youngest daughter, Missy, soon began speaking to an imaginary friend named Jody, who she said took the form of a large pig with glowing red eyes. George and Kathy dismissed it at first as a child's imagination, but they grew concerned when Missy described Jody as a real presence, saying that the pig would watch her from the window, sometimes smiling at her from the darkness. The Lutz family also reported bizarre physical phenomena that seemed to defy explanation. Doors would slam shut on their own, cabinets would open and close, and objects would move by themselves. At times, the family heard voices, chanting and murmuring in the middle of the night. George recalled walking into a room one night and finding it filled with hundreds of flies, despite it being the middle of winter. No matter how many times they killed the flies, they would return, as though something in the house was attracting them. George, who had previously never shown any violent tendencies, found himself becoming increasingly angry and irritable. He would spend long hours sitting in front of the fireplace, staring into the flames, as though hypnotized. He began to experience thoughts and impulses that he couldn't control, and his health started to deteriorate rapidly. Kathy, too, felt herself weakening as the oppressive atmosphere of the house seemed to drain their energy and willpower. As the weeks wore on, the family's experiences became more intense and sinister. George claimed to see shadowy figures moving through the house and felt an oppressive force pressing down on him. At times, the family would hear the sound of a marching band playing, even though no one was there. The final straw came when George woke up one night to find Kathy levitating above their bed, her body suspended in midair. On another occasion, George saw glowing red eyes peering into the house through a window, which he believed belonged to Jody, the pig-like entity that Missy had described. The Lutzes endured 28 days of these terrifying occurrences before they fled the house in the middle of the night, leaving all their belongings behind. They claimed that they were driven out by the malevolent forces that had taken over their home, forces they believed were tied to the brutal murders committed by Ronald DeFeo Jr. They never returned to the house, and their story became the basis for the book The Amityville Horror, written by Jay Anson, which was published in 1977. The book was an instant success and sparked a media frenzy, with people all over the world fascinated by the story of the haunted house. But controversy soon followed. Skeptics began to question the Lutz's story, pointing out inconsistencies and suggesting that the family had fabricated the events for financial gain. Investigations into the house revealed no physical evidence of paranormal activity, and some of the more dramatic claims made by the Lutzes were disputed by witnesses and former owners of the property. Nevertheless, the family has always maintained that their experiences were real, and the house's dark history continued to fuel rumors of hauntings. The legacy of the Amityville Horror has only grown over the years, thanks in part to the numerous films, books, and documentaries inspired by the Lutz's ordeal. The house itself remains a popular destination for paranormal investigators and curious tourists alike, though subsequent owners have reported no supernatural activity. To this day, the true nature of what happened inside 112 Ocean Avenue remains a subject of fierce debate, with some convinced that the house was indeed haunted by dark forces, while others believe the entire story was a hoax. What cannot be denied, however, is the lasting impact of the Amityville Horror on popular culture and the world of the paranormal. Whether the events were real or fabricated, the story of the Lutz family's harrowing experience has become a modern ghost story, a cautionary tale about the unknown forces that may dwell within the places we call home. For those who believe, the house at 112 Ocean Avenue is more than just a piece of real estate. It's a portal to something terrifying, a place where evil still lingers, waiting for the next unsuspecting family to move in. The Bell Witch legend is one of the most famous and enduring hauntings in American history, capturing the imaginations of countless individuals since the 19th century. The story takes place in rural Tennessee, where the Bell family faced unexplainable and terrifying events that would leave an indelible mark on the region's folklore. In the early 1800s, the Bell family, John, his wife Lucy, and their children, settled in the small farming community of Adams, Tennessee. They were a typical family of the time, working hard to make a living and raise their children. However, in 1817, their lives would take a sinister turn when they began to experience strange occurrences on their property. What started as minor disturbances soon escalated into full-fledged terror, leading to one of the most well-documented hauntings in history. The trouble began with odd noises that seemed to come from nowhere. At first, the family dismissed the sounds as mere animal activity, perhaps a raccoon or a wandering dog. However, as the days went on, the disturbances grew increasingly pronounced. The family reported hearing knocking, scratching, and whispering sounds emanating from the walls and the floorboards of their home. It wasn't long before these inexplicable noises became a source of immense fear for the Bell family. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, they noticed that the disturbances had intensified. Chairs would suddenly shift, dishes rattled, and loud banging echoed throughout the house. The family's young daughter, Betsy, became the primary target of the poltergeist's wrath. She would often wake in the night, screaming in terror, claiming that she felt invisible hands pulling her hair and pinching her. The malevolent force seemed to have a particular obsession with her, leading many to believe that it had an unexplainable grudge against the young girl. As the haunting continued, the Bell family became increasingly desperate for help. They sought out local neighbors and friends, who were initially skeptical of their claims. However, as word spread, more and more people began to witness the strange occurrences for themselves. Local residents flocked to the Bell home to observe the phenomena, and many left in disbelief, shaken by what they had witnessed. The Bell Witch quickly became a sensation in the community, drawing attention from curious onlookers and skeptics alike. Among those who visited the Bell home was a well-known local politician named Andrew Jackson. He was intrigued by the family's claims and decided to investigate the situation personally. Jackson, who later became the 7th President of the United States, brought a group of friends with him to witness the haunting firsthand. According to accounts, as soon as they arrived at the Bell property, they began to experience strange phenomena themselves. Their horses became restless, and one horse even refused to move, as if it sensed an unseen danger. The group reported hearing voices and witnessing objects move on their own. After a particularly terrifying encounter with the unseen entity, Jackson and his companions fled the Bell property, leaving them convinced of the family's ordeal. As the haunting progressed, it took on a more sinister tone. The entity, which came to be known as the Bell Witch, began to communicate with the family, often using a disembodied voice to express its feelings and intentions. The voice claimed to be the spirit of a witch named Kate Batts, who had lived in the area prior to the Bell family's arrival. Kate was said to have harbored a grudge against John Bell due to a land dispute, and many believed that she had cursed him and his family as revenge. The Bell Witch expressed its anger through torment, often taunting the family with threats and bizarre proclamations. As time went on, the manifestations became more violent. John Bell in particular began to suffer physically, with the witch claiming responsibility for his declining health. He would often wake up in the night, racked with pain and unable to find relief. The witch's influence seemed to sap his strength and spirit, leaving him a shell of the man he once was. The family sought help from local spiritual leaders and mediums, but despite their best efforts, the disturbances only seemed to escalate. The haunting reached its climax in 1820, when John Bell's health took a dramatic turn for the worse. On December 20th of that year, he was found dead in his bed. The family believed that the Bell Witch was responsible for his death, and many community members echoed this sentiment. At his funeral, the spirit reportedly made its presence known, causing disturbances that shocked attendees. The local community mourned John Bell, but they were also left grappling with the fear that the witch's influence would continue. After John's death, the haunting began to wane. Betsy, who had been the primary target of the witch's torment, eventually decided to stop attending school due to the ongoing disturbances. The Bell family made plans to leave their home and escape the grip of the Bell Witch. In 1821, the family left the property, and while the haunting subsided for a time, the legend of the Bell Witch only grew stronger in the years that followed. The story of the Bell Witch has become a cornerstone of American folklore, inspiring countless adaptations in books, films, and television shows. The haunting has been the subject of paranormal investigations, documentaries, and even haunted attraction experiences. The Bell Witch Cave, a site associated with the legend, has become a popular tourist destination, drawing thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts eager to connect with the legend. In the decades since the Bell family's terrifying experiences, the story has evolved, with many variations and embellishments added to the narrative. Some tales suggest that the Bell Witch continued to haunt the family even after they moved, while others indicate that the spirit eventually found peace. To this day, the legend remains a captivating part of Tennessee's history, inviting new generations to explore the eerie and mysterious world of the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch story serves as a chilling reminder of the unknown and the mysteries that still linger in the shadows of history. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, the haunting of the Bell family remains an enduring tale of fear, folklore, and the complex interplay between the living and the dead. As the legend continues to be passed down through the years, it leaves us to ponder the existence of forces beyond our understanding and the haunting legacy of those who face them. The Dyatlov Pass incident is a chilling and enigmatic story that has baffled investigators, historians, and conspiracy theorists for over 6 decades. It begins in January 1959, when a group of 9 hikers, mostly university students, embarked on a skiing expedition in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. Their goal was to reach the summit of Mount Otorten, a remote peak located in an area inhabited by the indigenous Mansi people. The hikers were all experienced in navigating treacherous terrain and harsh weather conditions, which makes what happened to them all the more inexplicable. The leader of the group, Igor Dyatlov, was a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnical Institute. His team consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all of whom were seasoned adventurers. They set off on their journey on January 27, 1959, in high spirits, fully prepared for the physical challenges ahead. On January 28th, one of the hikers, Yuri Yudin, was forced to turn back due to illness, leaving the remaining 9 to continue their trek through the snow-covered wilderness. Yudin's departure would later be seen as a stroke of fate, for he would be the only one from the group to survive. As the days passed, the hikers progressed steadily toward their destination. They documented their journey with diaries and photographs, capturing the stunning, snow-covered landscapes and their camaraderie. The group reached the slopes of Kholat Syakhl on February 1st, a mountain whose name ominously translates to Dead Mountain in the Mansi language. For reasons that remain unclear, Dyatlov decided to set up camp on the exposed slope of the mountain, rather than seeking shelter in the nearby forest. This decision would place the group in a vulnerable position when disaster struck later that night. When the hikers failed to return by their scheduled date of February 12th, relatives and friends grew worried. It wasn't unusual for expeditions to be delayed due to harsh weather conditions, so no immediate search was launched. However, by February 20th, when no word had been heard from the group, a search party was finally sent out to find them. What the rescuers discovered over the following weeks would spark decades of speculation, debate, and fear. The searchers found the hikers' tent on the slope of Kholat Syakhl, but it had been abandoned under strange circumstances. The tent was discovered partially buried in snow, slashed open from the inside, as if the occupants had fled in a panic. Even more bizarre was the fact that the hikers had left most of their belongings behind, including warm clothing, boots, and other essentials they would have needed to survive the extreme cold. Footprints leading away from the tent indicated that the hikers had fled barefoot or in only socks, despite the freezing temperatures that night, estimated to be as low as -30 degrees Celsius, -22 degrees Fahrenheit. As the search party followed the trail of footprints, they found the first 2 bodies about 1,500 meters from the tent. These 2 hikers, Yuri Krivonishenko and Georgy Doroshenko, were discovered near a large cedar tree, both of them wearing only their underwear. Nearby, there were signs that the hikers had attempted to light a fire, but it had clearly failed to keep them warm. The branches of the cedar were broken up to a height of 5 meters, suggesting that one or both of the men had climbed the tree, perhaps to look for the tent or to escape from something. Further up the slope, the searchers found 3 more bodies: Dyatlov, Zina Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin. These hikers appeared to have been attempting to return to the tent, but they never made it. Slobodin's body was found with a fractured skull, though the cause of his injuries remains unclear. The 3 were in various states of undress, much like the first 2 hikers found near the cedar tree. At this point, it seemed as though hypothermia had claimed the lives of the 5 hikers. However, the circumstances in which they were found raised more questions than answers. It wasn't until 2 months later, in May 1959, that the bodies of the remaining 4 hikers were discovered. These bodies, those of Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolovatov, Nikolai Thibault Brignol, and Semyon Zolotaryov, were found in a ravine about 75 meters from the cedar tree, buried under several meters of snow. Unlike the first 5 victims, These hikers had suffered severe and inexplicable injuries. Dubinina and Zolotaryov both had multiple broken ribs, and Thibaut Brignol had a fractured skull. What's even stranger is that Dubinina was found without her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. Investigators were perplexed by the extent of their injuries, especially since there were no external wounds or evidence of a struggle. The official Soviet investigation into the incident concluded that the hikers had died as a result of a compelling natural force. But this vague explanation only fueled further speculation. Theories about what had happened to the group began to circulate almost immediately, some grounded in scientific reasoning, others veering into the realm of the supernatural and conspiratorial. One of the most commonly discussed theories is that the hikers were caught in an avalanche, which forced them to flee their tent in a panic. This would explain why they left their camp in such haste and without proper clothing. However, those who support this theory face significant obstacles. There was no sign of an avalanche at the site, and the experienced hikers would have been unlikely to camp in a location where they thought one could occur. Additionally, the injuries sustained by the last 4 victims were inconsistent with what would be expected in an avalanche scenario. Another theory posits that the hikers were victims of a Soviet military experiment gone wrong. The Ural Mountains were a remote and sparsely populated region, and it's been suggested that the group may have stumbled upon a secret weapons test, possibly involving parachute mines or some other type of explosive device. This would explain both the hikers' panic and the severe internal injuries found on the last 4 victims. Adding to the intrigue, some of the hikers' clothing was found to contain traces of radiation, although this could have been the result of their environment or their studies, as several of them worked with radioactive materials. Some of the more outlandish theories propose that the hikers encountered something supernatural or extraterrestrial. Reports of strange lights or orbs in the sky around the time of the incident have led to speculation that UFOs or some other unknown force may have been involved. Others suggest that the hikers could have been victims of a Yeti or another cryptid, although there is no solid evidence to support these ideas. Adding to the mystery, the Mansi people, indigenous to the region, have their own stories about the mountains. Some believe that the area is cursed or inhabited by spirits, which might explain the translation of Kholat Syakhl as Dead Mountain. However, there is no evidence that the Mansi had any involvement in the incident, and they cooperated with the Soviet authorities during the investigation. In the years that followed, the Dyatlov Pass incident became a subject of fascination for researchers, writers, and filmmakers. Various expeditions and scientific studies have attempted to explain what happened to the hikers, but no definitive conclusion has been reached. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation, and in 2020, they concluded once again that the hikers had died as a result of a natural event, most likely a slab avalanche. However, this explanation continues to be disputed by experts and conspiracy theorists alike. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most enduring and unsettling mysteries of the 20th century. What truly happened to Igor Dyatlov and his team on that cold February night in 1959 may never be known, but their tragic fate continues to captivate the imaginations of those drawn to the unknown. The pass, now officially named after Dyatlov, stands as a somber reminder of the group's final journey, forever etched into the annals of unsolved mysteries. The Elisa Lam case stands as one of the most disturbing and perplexing mysteries in recent history. A chilling tale marked by mental health struggles, eerie behavior, and an unsettling conclusion. The tragic story began in January 2013 when a young Canadian woman traveled to Los Angeles, seeking adventure but ultimately becoming a victim of circumstances far beyond her control. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, Canada, with dreams of exploring the world. Known for her vibrant personality and candid blog, she documented her experiences and struggles, including her battles with mental illness, which included depression and anxiety. In late January 2013, Elisa decided to travel alone to California, excited to visit the sunny beaches and bustling streets of Los Angeles. She checked into the Cecil Hotel, a historic and notorious establishment located in the Skid Row neighborhood, known for its dark history, including numerous suicides, murders, and strange occurrences. Upon her arrival, Elisa's behavior appeared somewhat erratic, as she often interacted with the hotel staff and other guests, but was also known to withdraw into herself. Those who met her described her as friendly, but clearly dealing with personal challenges. Despite this, her family remained in contact with her throughout her trip. However, after several days without communication, her parents grew worried and contacted the Los Angeles Police Department to report her missing on January 31, 2013. The investigation began swiftly. Police distributed flyers with her photograph, and searches were conducted around the hotel and nearby areas. As the search continued, guests at the Cecil Hotel began to report odd occurrences, particularly regarding the water supply. Complaints about strange tasting and discolored water began pouring in. Little did anyone know, the source of these complaints would lead to a grim discovery. On February 19, 2013, hotel maintenance workers responded to the complaints by inspecting the rooftop water tank. As they approached the tank, they were met with a horrifying sight. The lifeless body of Elisa Lam was found inside, submerged in the water. The discovery sent shockwaves throughout the hotel and the wider community, as well as the family who had desperately searched for her. How did she end up there? Why had no one noticed her disappearance for so long? In the days following the discovery, investigators sought to piece together the final moments of Elisa's life. They reviewed the hotel's security footage from the day she vanished, hoping to find clues to explain her strange behavior. The footage showed Elisa on January 31st, entering the elevator of the hotel and behaving in a bizarre manner. She pressed multiple buttons, then appeared to speak to someone outside the elevator, though no one was visible on camera. Her demeanor seemed increasingly erratic as she ducked in and out of the elevator, peering down the hallway nervously. She seemed agitated and fearful, moving her hands in erratic gestures, as if trying to communicate with an unseen presence. The video sparked widespread speculation and intrigue, with many viewers discussing her behavior in forums and online communities. Some suggested she was experiencing a mental health crisis, while others theorized she might have been under the influence of drugs. The eerie footage fueled conspiracy theories and supernatural claims, particularly in light of the hotel's notorious past. The Cecil Hotel had long been associated with dark happenings, including numerous suicides and the presence of known criminals, leading some to wonder if Elisa's death was linked to the hotel's sinister history. As the investigation progressed, the coroner conducted an autopsy and confirmed that Elisa had drowned. However, they noted that her bipolar disorder was a significant factor in her mental state at the time of her death. They ruled her death as accidental, but the circumstances surrounding how she ended up in the water tank remained unclear. How did she access the roof? How did she get into the locked water tank? The questions persisted, creating a fog of uncertainty that hung over the case. Rumors spread about the possibility of foul play, but police found no evidence to suggest that anyone else was involved in her death. The hotel's staff and guests were interviewed, but no definitive leads emerged. The bizarre combination of Elisa's erratic behavior, the locked tank, and the hotel's dark history sparked a torrent of theories, each more chilling than the last. Some speculated that she may have been pursued by someone or something, while others considered the possibility of an unexplained supernatural phenomenon at play. The case garnered significant media attention, capturing the public's imagination and sparking debates about mental health, urban isolation, and the impact of modern technology on human connection. Elisa's tragic story served as a poignant reminder of the importance of mental health awareness and the struggles many individuals face in silence. Her death resonated deeply with those who understood the complexities of living with mental illness. In the aftermath, the Cecil Hotel became a focal point for paranormal enthusiasts and those intrigued by true crime. Ghost hunters and curious tourists flocked to the location, hoping to catch a glimpse of Elisa's spirit or experience the haunted atmosphere that lingered around the infamous establishment. The hotel's dark history was revisited time and again, with Elisa's story becoming an integral part of its narrative. Years later, the Cecil Hotel underwent renovations, and was rebranded as the Stay on Main. But the specter of Elisa Lam's tragic fate continued to loom over its history. The hotel's notorious reputation remained intact, with many still believing that it was a cursed place, haunted by the souls of those who had suffered within its walls. Stories of strange occurrences, unsettling noises, and feelings of being watched circulated among those who ventured into the vicinity. Despite the investigation's conclusions, the unanswered questions surrounding Elisa Lam's death continue to haunt her family, friends, and anyone who hears her story. The chilling footage of her last moments, her struggles with mental health, and the dark circumstances of her demise serve as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of fate. Elisa's legacy lives on through discussions about mental health awareness, the importance of recognizing signs of distress in others, and the need for compassion and understanding in a world that can often feel isolating. Her tragic end raises the question: how many others suffer in silence, unseen and unheard, while their struggles remain hidden beneath the surface? As we ponder the tragic tale of Elisa Lam, we are left with lingering thoughts of how we might better connect with those around us, recognizing the signs of mental health struggles and fostering an environment of openness and understanding. The unanswered questions will likely remain, but her story is a haunting reminder that there is often more beneath the surface than meets the eye. In the end, Elisa Lam became not just a victim of her circumstances, but a symbol of the complex issues surrounding mental health, urban life, and the tragic intersection of both. The Enfield Poltergeist case remains one of the most chilling and documented hauntings in British history. Taking place in the late 1970s in a modest council house in Enfield, North London, this story revolves around the Hodgson family, particularly two young sisters, Margaret and Janet, who became the epicenter of terrifying supernatural occurrences that would attract the attention of the media, paranormal investigators, and skeptics alike. In August 1977, the Hodgson family began experiencing unsettling events in their home. Single mother Peggy Hodgson and her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Billy, and the youngest child, Johnny, had just settled into their new house when strange happenings began to unfold. At first, the family dismissed the incidents as typical house-settling noises or tricks of the mind. However, as the disturbances escalated, it became clear that something far more sinister was at play. The activity began subtly. Unexplained noises like knocking and scratching sounds echoed throughout the house. Objects would mysteriously shift or disappear, only to reappear in strange locations. The family felt an eerie presence, but the turning point came when Janet and Margaret began experiencing more overt and terrifying encounters. Furniture would move on its own, and the sisters often reported feeling an unseen force pushing against them. At times, they would wake in the middle of the night, horrified by the feeling of being watched. As the disturbances intensified, the Hodgsons realized they were dealing with something beyond their understanding. It was in September 1977 when Peggy and her children first encountered the poltergeist's most notorious act. One night, while the family was gathered in the living room, a loud banging erupted from the walls, shaking the house to its core. Terrified, Peggy called the police for help. When the officers arrived, they initially laughed off the family's claims, but their laughter quickly faded as they witnessed a chair slide across the floor by itself. They left, bewildered and unsure of how to handle the situation. The following weeks brought a flurry of bizarre occurrences, including objects flying through the air, unexplained voices, and even the sisters experiencing violent shaking and levitation. One particularly frightening incident involved Janet, who reportedly became possessed by the entity. Witnesses claimed to have seen her speaking in a deep, guttural voice, claiming to be a spirit named Bill Wilkins. This spectral entity purportedly revealed that it had died in the house years earlier and was now seeking to wreak havoc on the living. As news of the haunting spread, the Hodgson family became the focus of intense media scrutiny. Journalists flocked to their home, eager to capture evidence of the supernatural. The case caught the attention of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, well-known figures in the field of ghost hunting and demonology. They arrived in Enfield in 1978, bringing their experience and a desire to help the troubled family. The Warrens, who had already gained fame for their investigation of the Amityville Horror, believed the Hodgson case had the potential for serious paranormal significance. The Warrens' involvement led to even more sensational media coverage. The family underwent extensive interviews, and investigators set up equipment to capture evidence of the poltergeist activity. Over the course of several weeks, the team documented numerous occurrences: furniture moving, objects being thrown, and strange noises filling the air. During one of their investigations, the Warrens claimed to have witnessed Janet levitating above her bed, an event that stunned both the investigators and the family. Despite the apparent evidence, skeptics remained unconvinced. Some critics argued that the Hodgsons were either fabricating the events for attention or that the girls were playing tricks on the adults. The media frenzy surrounding the case added fuel to these speculations, as various journalists offered conflicting accounts of what truly transpired. The family endured harassment from the press, which often distorted the truth for sensational headlines. In an effort to bring closure to the haunting, the Hodgson family sought help from a local priest. The clergyman conducted a series of blessings in the home, hoping to banish the spirit that had taken residence within its walls. While some incidents subsided, the poltergeist activity persisted, leading to a chaotic and fearful environment for the family. The tension mounted as the sisters grappled with the psychological toll of the haunting, particularly as they navigated the intense scrutiny of the public eye. As the months turned into years, the hauntings began to wane. By the early 1980s, the poltergeist activity diminished significantly, and the family was finally able to find some peace. Janet and Margaret eventually moved on with their lives, but the legacy of the Enfield Poltergeist would remain. They would later come forward to share their experiences, recounting the trauma and confusion they faced during the years of turmoil. In the years following the haunting, various documentaries, films, and books were produced about the Enfield Poltergeist case, each adding layers to the original story. The phenomena surrounding the Hodgson family has continued to intrigue paranormal enthusiasts and skeptics alike, often inspiring debates about the nature of the supernatural and the reality of hauntings. Despite the passage of time, the Enfield Poltergeist remains a prominent fixture in paranormal lore. It serves as a chilling reminder of the inexplicable and often terrifying experiences that can occur within the confines of a home. While some may dismiss the events as mere trickery or psychological phenomena, for the Hodgson family, the terror they faced was all too real. Their ordeal stands as one of the most documented and scrutinized hauntings in history, forever etched in the annals of the unexplained. The haunting of the Hodgson family challenges us to ponder the unknown and the mysteries that still lie beyond our understanding. What happened in that quiet council house in Enfield continues to elude definitive explanation, leaving us with lingering questions about the unseen forces that may walk among us. The Enfield Poltergeist serves as a testament to the enduring fascination with the supernatural, a tale that invites us to confront our fears and explore the shadows lurking in our own lives. The tale of the Black Monk of Pontefract is one of the most chilling and notorious hauntings in British history, marked by violent poltergeist activity that terrorized the Pritchard family in their home in Pontefract, West Yorkshire, during the late 1960s. This harrowing story has become a cornerstone of supernatural lore, illustrating the terrifying potential of a vengeful spirit and the impact it can have on a family. The haunting began in 1966, when the Pritchard family, a father, mother, and their 3 children, moved into a modest house on East Drive in Pontefract. Initially, they were thrilled to settle into their new home, but they soon discovered that they were not alone. The first signs of disturbance were relatively benign: odd noises and flickering lights. However, these subtle hints quickly escalated into something far more sinister. Within a short period, the family began to experience unexplained occurrences. It started with strange tapping sounds on the walls and floorboards, which they initially dismissed as settling noises. But the situation quickly escalated. They began to hear footsteps in the house, often accompanied by the sound of shuffling, as if someone were walking around when no one was there. The children, especially, became frightened, frequently waking up to the sensation of an unseen presence watching them. As the days passed, the disturbances intensified. Objects began to move on their own, toys would fly across the room, and furniture would inexplicably shift positions. The family quickly realized that they were dealing with something beyond their understanding. During one particularly terrifying incident, the family found their kitchen utensils rearranged in bizarre patterns, leaving them feeling violated and unsafe in their own home. The spirit began to make its presence known more aggressively. The family reported feeling cold spots in certain areas of the house, and the atmosphere often felt thick with tension. The once peaceful abode transformed into a place of fear. They began to notice dark shadows flitting through the corners of their vision, and a pervasive sense of dread settled over the house. Most unsettling of all was the chilling realization that they were being watched by a malevolent entity. It wasn't long before the haunting took a violent turn. The poltergeist became increasingly aggressive, launching objects at the family and physically attacking them. The children, in particular, bore the brunt of the spirit's fury. They would often return to their rooms to find their belongings tossed around or drenched in water. In one horrifying incident, a chair reportedly flew across the room, narrowly missing one of the children. The family soon found themselves in a desperate situation, overwhelmed by the relentless torment of the Black Monk. The origin of the haunting has been linked to a dark legend in the Pontefract area. Local lore suggests that the spirit haunting the Pritchard family is that of a monk who had been executed for the alleged murder of a young girl in the 16th century. The details of the monk's tragic fate remain murky, but many believe that his spirit lingered, seeking revenge or perhaps release from his eternal torment. The identity of the spirit remained elusive, but the Pritchards began referring to the malevolent force as the Black Monk, a name that would stick and enter the annals of ghostly folklore. In a desperate bid for help, the Pritchard family sought assistance from paranormal investigators and spiritual leaders. They contacted the renowned researcher and ghost hunter Harry Price, who had gained fame for his investigations into supernatural phenomena. Price arrived at the Pritchard home, bringing with him an array of equipment designed to capture evidence of the paranormal. He conducted numerous seances and interviews, hoping to uncover the truth behind the haunting. During one of these sessions, Price and his team documented some of the most astonishing evidence of paranormal activity. They captured inexplicable sounds on tape and witnessed furniture moving in front of their eyes. Price believed the Black Monk was indeed a powerful and restless spirit, capable of manifesting its anger in physical ways. He noted that the energy of the family, particularly the children, seemed to fuel the poltergeist's activity, creating a feedback loop of fear and chaos. Despite the efforts of Price and other investigators, the haunting persisted. The family grew increasingly desperate, struggling to maintain a semblance of normalcy in their lives. The relentless terror took a toll on their mental health, leading to sleepless nights and strained relationships. The children became withdrawn, haunted by the specter of the Black Monk. Peggy Pritchard, the mother, reported feeling physically ill and emotionally drained, a testament to the toll that the supernatural disturbances had taken on her family. As the haunting continued, the family decided to seek solace in the church. They hoped that a priest could bless their home and rid them of the malevolent spirit. However, even after the blessing, the disturbances showed no sign of abating. The haunting reached a boiling point when the family experienced a series of violent events that left them terrified for their safety. On one occasion, a heavy vase was thrown across the room, narrowly missing Peggy as she shielded her children. In a final act of desperation, the Pritchards decided to leave their home in search of peace. They moved to a different neighborhood, hoping to escape the torment of the Black Monk. As they left, the family reported feeling an eerie calm descend upon them, as if the weight of the spirit's presence had lifted. However, the legend of the Black Monk of Pontefract did not end with their departure. In the years that followed, the house on East Drive became notorious for its haunted reputation, drawing ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts eager to explore the supernatural legacy left by the Pritchards. Numerous investigations were conducted, and various reports emerged, claiming to capture evidence of the Black Monk's continued presence in the home. The local community became fascinated with the haunting, which inspired books, documentaries, and even ghost tours. The Pritchard family's experience serves as a haunting reminder of the unknown forces that may linger in our world. The Black Monk of Pontefract has become a symbol of the terrifying power of the supernatural, showcasing how a malevolent spirit can wreak havoc on the lives of unsuspecting families. As the legend persists, it raises profound questions about the nature of the afterlife and the mysteries that may lie beyond our understanding. The tale of the Black Monk continues to captivate audiences, inviting new generations to confront the chilling possibilities of the paranormal. Whether one believes in the supernatural or remains a skeptic, the haunting legacy of the Pritchard family endures, forever etched in the history of haunted places. The Enfield Poltergeist may have claimed the spotlight in the realm of hauntings, but the story of the Black Monk of Pontefract serves as a powerful testament to the darkness that can manifest within our homes and the lingering spirits that may never find peace. Nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains lies a small, forgotten town called Hollow Creek. Once bustling with life and prosperity, it has become a shadow of its former self, shunned by many and avoided by most. The town's dilapidated buildings, covered in vines and the passage of time, whisper tales of its tragic past, while the thick fog that blankets the valley at dawn seems to carry the weight of lost souls. Hollow Creek was founded in the late 1800s, thriving on the promise of the gold rush. Miners flocked to the area, hoping to strike it rich. Among them was a young man named Thomas, full of dreams and ambition. He arrived in town with his best friend, William, eager to explore the mines and uncover their secrets. The two friends worked tirelessly, but as weeks turned into months, their luck seemed to dwindle. In their search for fortune, they grew desperate, delving deeper into the treacherous tunnels. One fateful evening, Thomas and William unearthed something extraordinary, a glittering vein of gold nestled deep within the earth. They celebrated their discovery, but their joy was short-lived. The very next day, disaster struck. An earthquake shook the valley, causing a cave-in that trapped the two friends inside. Despite the frantic efforts of the townsfolk, they were unable to rescue them. Days turned into weeks, and eventually, Thomas and William were declared lost, their dreams and lives buried beneath the rubble. As years passed, the gold rush faded, and Hollow Creek began to decline. The once thriving town became a ghost town as families packed up and left, unable to bear the weight of loss and despair. The remaining residents spoke in hushed tones of the spirits that roamed the town, whispers of Thomas and William eternally searching for their way home. In modern times, a group of adventurous young adults decided to explore the ruins of Hollow Creek. Among them was Lily, an aspiring filmmaker who was drawn to the town's tragic history. She wanted to document their adventure, capturing the eerie beauty of the abandoned buildings and the tales of the lost souls. As they arrived, a heavy fog enveloped the valley, casting an otherworldly aura over the dilapidated structures. With cameras in hand, they ventured into the heart of Hollow Creek. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the creaking of old wood and the rustling of leaves. They explored the remnants of the town, the crumbling saloon, the dilapidated church, and the old mining headquarters. Each step seemed to echo with the memories of the past. As night fell, they gathered around a flickering campfire, sharing stories of the town's history. Lily shared the legend of Thomas and William, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames. As she spoke, a chill swept through the air, causing the group to shiver. They dismissed it as the cold mountain breeze, but a lingering unease settled over them. Suddenly, a low moan echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. The group exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to make of the sound. They decided to investigate, following the noise deeper into the woods. As they walked, the fog thickened, and the darkness closed in around them. After a short trek, they stumbled upon the old mine shaft, the entrance shrouded in shadows. The moaning grew louder, a haunting sound that beckoned them closer. Compelled by a mixture of curiosity and fear, Lily led the way inside, her camera light cutting through the darkness. The air inside was stale and damp, carrying the scent of earth and decay. As they ventured deeper into the mine, they began to see flickering shadows dancing on the walls, figures that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. The moans transformed into whispers, calling their names, drawing them further into the abyss. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and they realized they were not alone. The spirits of Thomas and William emerged from the shadows, their faces twisted in anguish. They reached out, their hands beckoning for help, trapped in the cycle of their despair. The group stood frozen, fear gripping their hearts as they faced the lost souls of Hollow Creek. Lily, driven by compassion, stepped forward. "We can help you find peace," she said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming fear. "We know your story. You're not forgotten." As she spoke, a light seemed to radiate from her, breaking through the darkness that enveloped the spirits. Thomas and William paused, their expressions softening as they listened. The whispers around them began to quiet, and the fog receded, revealing a path leading out of the mine. In that moment, the spirits began to fade, their forms shimmering like stardust. The group watched in awe as the lost souls of Hollow Creek finally found their way home. A sense of peace enveloped the mine shaft, and the air grew lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The group emerged from the mine, the night sky sparkling with stars. They knew they had witnessed something extraordinary, an encounter with the past that had set the lost souls free. Lily recorded the moment, her heart full of gratitude for the chance to share their story. Hollow Creek, once a town haunted by tragedy, had found a semblance of closure, and its legacy would continue to live on through the tales of those brave enough to uncover its mysteries. As they left the town behind, the weight of the darkness that once shrouded Hollow Creek began to dissipate, replaced by the light of hope and remembrance. The spirits were finally at rest, and the echoes of their story would resonate for generations to come. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.